Good evening. I'm Jack Rowan, one of the chaplains with Partners in Home Care. Welcome to the Tree of Life ceremony. Welcome to the 33rd annual Tree of Life event. Thank you for joining us to remember those that we have lost this year and in years past, to share stories and to hold vigil together, to recognize our individual losses while embracing our continuing connections. Partners in Home Care is honored to be here with you and to be a part of your community. This night, in the midst of the long darkness of midwinter, we gather to remember our loved ones, each in our own way. We gather to support each other, and we gather to engage in the ancient practice of lighting a tree. Arise, shine, for your light has come. A light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would almost glow, even if untouched by fire. Light upon light. Light is useful. Light is inspiring. Light is metaphor. Light is beauty. Light is life. Yet we do not flood this magnificent tree with a bank of stadium lights. It is the multitude of small lights that inspires, beautifies, and informs us. Their limited luminescence reveals outlines, vague forms, and glimpses that remind us of those who are no longer physically with us, yet will always remain in our lives. Like stars in the sky, these small lights remind us of all who have gone before us and all who will continue this journey after us. Even in sorrow and remembrance, we are comforted by the multitude of lights, individual yet connected, each a spark from the great fire that is life. Following the lighting of this tree of life, please stay with us for the candle lighting recorded at St. Paul Lutheran Church, as well as the listing of names folks submitted to remember our loved ones lost. Some folks are joining us for the first time. Some have participated in this event for many years. All of us are welcomed. All of us contribute to the beauty and meaning and light of this event. This tree of life belongs to us all. Thank you and good evening.
Hello. I am Alette Wright. I am the bereavement coordinator for Partners in Home Care Hospice, and I have been here for 9 Trees of Life. I am joined by Chaplain Dan Dixon and Chaplain Jack Rowan. Hello, and welcome to the 33rd annual Tree of Life ceremony. Yes, the 33rd. When in the summer, as we began our planning discussions for this year's observance, we were faced with having to figure out how we would do it. It was unthinkable to give it up, or to cancel for this year, or to just postpone. So we've taken what we've been learning about gathering together in different ways to create our opportunity to gather in ceremony together, virtually. As always, we are grateful to be here and grateful to have you here with us. For many of us, whether or not we have personally experienced a recent loss of a loved one, we have lost so many other things. The routines of how we move about and function, how we work, the normalcy of how things were less than a year ago. We grieve the family dinners, the visits with the grandchildren, the fun and lively times when we went out together for a meal, the drop-in visits. We grieve our loss of a sense of safety, and we become better acquainted with fear. These losses and this grief, along with our grief for loved ones who are gone, have complicated our lives, our souls, and our psyches. Further, for those who have experienced the death of a loved one during these times, many things have been different. They've been heartbreaking and challenging. We may have lost the opportunities to travel to see those who were dying and ill, and to have others visit us and our loved ones. We may not have been able to have our celebrations of life, our memorials, our masses, and funeral services to honor them, at least not in the ways we had planned and talked about. These losses are even more bittersweet. As a society, we share the multidimensional experience of complicated grief. We come again, as we do each year, to create the opportunity to attend to our sorrows. If we do not attend our sorrows, they remain with us, often hidden in darkness, uncomfortable. When we attend to them, give them the time and the grace they need to be acknowledged, they may take their place in our lives' experiences. We don't forget our losses or our loved ones. We remember them. And that's why we are here, is to remember. And yet we are able to be here, to know we are still in the presence of others who share our losses and sorrows, and we can continue to send and receive love, support, and understanding. I will always love this poem by Rumi, a 13th century poet and bearer of wisdom, and I appreciate the chance to share it with you again. Your grief for what you have lost. Your grief for what you have lost lifts a mirror up to where you are bravely working, expecting the worst. You look, and instead, there's the joyful face you've been wanting to see. Your hand opens and closes. It opens and closes. If you're always a fist or always stretched open, you'd be paralyzed. Your deepest presence is in every small contracting and expanding, the two as beautifully balanced and coordinated as birds' wings.
Good evening. My name is Dan Dixon. I'm a chaplain with Partners in Home Care Hospice. I have been in that role for 11 and a half years. Each day we move nearer December 21st, the more darkness we experience. It seems that there is these days more night than there is day. Add to that the darkness that can seem to permeate our lives when we're also in grief. It doesn't matter whether our loss is recent or whether it's been a while. This season can accentuate the dark grief that we sometimes feel. We want life, and we want to seek life and light, but it can seem so dark. And for those whose loss is recent, the circumstances around the coronavirus and necessary quarantines serves only to amplify our grief. People weren't able to care for their loved one as they might have wished to at the end of life. Families been unable to be in the hospital or a skilled care facility where a person was dying surrounded by caring strangers, or not being able to be there at the time of death to say a last, "I love you." We were unable to travel to share grief with those who are close to us as friends and family. Funerals or memorial services have been delayed or must remain very small in order to keep us all safe. And all of that isolated us even more from one another. At times we most needed one another. Even this tender event we call the Tree of Life, which usually brings many grieving people together to share caring and community and candlelight, must be done virtually because we dare not risk adding one more sad death in our community through carelessness. Suffering a loss and grieving through this particular time with its special requirements and restrictions is a bit like stacking darkness on top of darkness, shrouding the night, so to speak. It's like one of those nights that is so dark you aren't able to see the hand in front of your face. You know that something familiar is there, but you can't see it. I was recently surprised to learn that technically there is no such thing as dark. There is only the absence of light. Dark is not a thing. It is the absence of light. But try and tell that to a child who fears darkness, or anyone who feels that their grief has left them in a dark place. In reality, though, it isn't a matter of taking the darkness away. Nobody can take away darkness because, again, dark is not a thing. And no one can take our grief away. But grief is really a thing. What we can do, all that we can do, is bring light to that situation of light's absence. That we can, maybe it's not a floodlight or 1,000 candles to replace the darkness of grief and loss, but even just one candle to help light someone's way through the gloom. A flame to light the candle of hope and life that may have gone out with the death of someone dear to us. There's a story about a young girl who took her doll with her, and her mother sent her down the block to go play dolls with a friend of hers. In a little while she came back, and her mother asked her how things went. And she looked a little sad, and she said, "Well, Sally's favorite doll broke." And mother asked, "Were you able to help her fix it?" She sadly said, "No, but I helped her cry." A little light, a candle or flame of caring shared in a time of very real sadness, pain, and grief. And so this evening I have two questions for you. Who is it that has brought you a little light in the midst of your grief? Who is the person or the persons, or what was the circumstance that brought light where there had been an absence of light in your life? It may have been profound, such as someone standing with you at the deathbed or holding you up through the days that followed. It may have been very simple as allowing you space to cry or share the story of your life with your loved one without trying to fix it or fix you, without trying to make the grief go away, but was willing to just sit with you and listen to your longing and your sadness. And then secondly, I would ask, who is it that needs just a flicker of light that you have to offer in the darkness of this winter? Who is there who grieves in the midst of the COVID restrictions, lockdowns, and quarantines? COVID has not shut down the telephones or the email. Who needs to hear from you to bring a sliver of light to their darkness? I would even challenge you to do the unthinkable. Sit down with a pen and paper and write an honest-to-God old-fashioned letter. Put it in an envelope and put a stamp on it and mail it. Throw in a picture that's colored by a child or a poem that you like or a photo that you might have of this person's loved one in your possession and include it with your letter. Give a glimmer of light to someone who is grieving by making a donation in the name of that person that they've lost. It says that you remember and it says that you care. If caroling is a thing for you this time of year, how about some old-fashioned Christmas caroling with new-fashioned safe distancing and masks, especially to the homes of those who grieve and are lonely? Maybe offer to do baking or cooking for the holiday meal that they just can't bring themselves to prepare, or to offer to do some Christmas shopping for someone whose health makes public activity dangerous right now, or whose grief just makes it too hard to go to the store and shop. You get the idea. There are many, many very simple ways, even in the time of COVID, that you can shine a candle into someone's life to turn the absence of light into the presence of at least a little light. And I'll tell you a secret. When you light a candle, when you share even a little light with someone who is grieving, I promise you, a little of that light is going to stay with you. You can't fix another person's grief. You can't even make your own grief disappear, but you can find light. You can claim light and you can give light. Frankly, the COVID world really sucks. And it sucks big time when we are dealing with a loss. But the darkness is not forever, and a pandemic can't stop us from giving or receiving light. So may we all, in this season, even amid these circumstances, find light, share light, and hold out hope for light that is never far away and will never totally leave us alone in the dark. Amen.
Good evening. My name is Jack Rowan. I'm one of the chaplains with Partners in Home Care. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to lead us in a responsive reading, and I'll read a line, and then you'll read from the program your response. We are here tonight to honor those we have lost and to find light for our darkness.
With lights on our tree, how
not because they died, but because they lived.
With lights on our tree now illuminating the dark night, we remember them.
Not only to mourn a death, but to celebrate a life.
With candles illuminating this sacred space, we remember them.
Not only to endure the monochromatic cold of winter, but to anticipate the color-filled warmth of spring and the new life it will bring.
With candles illuminating this sacred space, we remember them.
May the lights we light on this night proclaim to our community that people we have loved have lived, have died, but will never be forgotten.
With the lights on our tree and with the flames of love we share, we remember them.
May the lights we light tonight represent hope. And now we light one another's candles as we share in the quiet of the moment, remembering those we love and welcoming the light.
In past years, we would have invited you to linger in the church for a while. We would have invited you to come downstairs to see your loved ones' names displayed on their banners. There would have been plenty of cookies, and warm drinks to enjoy together. We miss having those opportunities this year, but please know that we are gathered in thought and spirit as before. We look forward to when we will be able to go back to some of these traditions that we have created together. Our deepest and most heartfelt thanks to you for being a part of the ceremony for another year. Take good care of yourselves and each other, and know the tradition continues. Good night.